Hey everybody, 8-Bit Josh here, and welcome back to Planet Zoo and Wildlife World. And today we are working on what will most likely be the last habitat in Heart of Asia, which is obviously the Asian section of our zoo. And last but definitely not least, we are finishing with the giant panda. And pretty excited about these guys because they're super cool animals, and I was pretty excited about making this habitat for them, especially because if you've been following like these videos or by chance you watch the live streams, I've been saying that I wanted to make this little corner here the habitat for the pandas, and it presented itself like a bit of a challenge just because it is on a hill. And I thought, not only would it be sort of a challenge to build it, but it would also be pretty unique in a way, because most of our habitats are fairly flat. I mean, we do have, habitats like actually the elephant habitat that's right across the pathway from this has sort of like a sloping hill on it, but for the most part, they're pretty flat. Other than a few little grooves or, just like little terrain adjustments that we have made in them, but for the most part they're not like super hilly. And so yeah, like I said, it presented a bit of a challenge for me, and I was actually like welcoming that challenge because I thought it'd be pretty fun to do. So here, this is like the top of the habitat, and I actually used the sort of invisible habitat barrier because I knew that we were gonna have like sort of a rock wall up there, so there really wasn't need to have an actual barrier there. So at the top I just used the invisible barrier, and then I used the concrete for the rest of the barrier around it. And then here I'm just making another little viewing area for our guests. It looks out over top of the habitat a little bit, which I think these kind of things are fun, more so than like doing, like, you can see the habitat across the path there, which is the Chinese pangolins, just like kind of having like the little window through the barrier there, which it's cool, and it's a fun feature that you can have a barrier in the barrier. But I don't know, I think it's more fun when you have the viewing area for the guests a little bit more, I like to say, interactive, in that they're kind of either over top looking down, or it makes you feel like you're actually inside the habitat, if you will. And that's what I kind of am doing with this. I did it with like the rhinoceros habitat, I did it with the reindeer habitat over in the Arctic section, which I want to talk a little bit about that as well, because that came out and it sort of put a hold on finishing up Parts of Asia, which is what we're working on here. So we finished the Arctic area. We have all 4 animals. We have all the detailing done. We'll take a more in-depth look at that in the when we get into the real-time gameplay. But yeah, so for this bit here, I wanted it to have sort of that East Asian theme, because I think it is a really cool theme. It's got a lot of fun like parts and pieces and details, and I don't know, I think it's a pretty fun theme in the game. And like I said, obviously this is the Heart of Asia area, so it has a mix of Asian and like Indian themes in it as well. But I felt like the panda viewing area, it should definitely have that East Asian theme. But here we're just adding details, adding lots of lights to it, and the cool thing about this viewing area, it's actually doubling as the shelter for the pandas as well. So the pandas, actually, their shelter is right beneath it. And we'll take more, obviously a closer look when we get into the real-time gameplay. But like we added a lot of detail in the habitat itself. I actually ended up adding a waterfall. It was sort of last minute, I didn't record that, but we're gonna take a look at all of that in the real-time gameplay, which is coming up right now. So see you in the real-time gameplay. Okay, and here we are, and here is the completed giant panda habitat. So you can see we have that there's an unintended thing happening right here, which really bugs me about this game, and I hope there's a way that we can fix it, either by they update the game, or maybe they add signs that say like no standing. But I noticed people are not actually coming up here to watch them. Their guests do this thing where they can stare through walls basically and watch animals. So I don't know how to fix that. And they're just going up there. But anyway, that aside, this is the new viewing area up here, which I think looks pretty nice. You walk up here, we have obviously a donation box, you have your educational boards up there, and then if we look out over into the habitat, we have two right now. We have a male and a female. Hopefully maybe they'll mate and we'll have little baby pandas running around. Currently playing with the wind chimes. But I think this is a really nice looking little habitat. There you can see the waterfall, which, like I said, I added sort of last minute. I felt like it needed a little extra touch right there. I also added one of these pre-built little climbing areas, and then I just sort of decorated it with these are actually trees down here, which I thought they look kind of cool, almost like fallen leaves almost. Hopefully we'll see our pandas actually climb up here. I did check, and they are able to climb up there, so hopefully we'll see them do that at some point. But yeah, so this is our little panda habitat, which if I zoom out so you can see, added it on the side of the hill here, and I think it turned out really cool. It fits in really, really well, I think. Actually surprised nobody right here yet is standing and looking out to the habitat, because guests seem to want to do that. They just kind of stand wherever they can to view the animals, which this is going to be a problem if people continue to stand here and here rather than coming up here, which they're supposed to be doing. So I don't know, but like I said, this really completes the Heart of Asia section of our zoo, assuming there isn't any sort of DLC in the future that maybe has like a strong Asian theme to it. But for the most part, I'd say right now it is done. Actually, this is a pretty cool view. Let's see like the a little bit of the elephant habitat over there. I think this area turned out really cool. I like how it looks. I like, it's a nice mix of the East Asian and Indian themes, because we have both of those pretty prominent, I would say, in this area, and it's all looking really good. I'm happy with how it turned out. I like our little we added this during a live stream. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the last video, but it was sort of a last minute addition to this area because we realized we didn't have any guest facilities over here. So we needed to add that, and that was kind of like a nice little spot for it. So I want to quickly just kind of go through the Arctic area of our zoo, which is called Alpine Cove. And like I said, we have all 4 animals and all of the detailing is complete. I don't think there's any additional detailing that we'll be doing to this section of our zoo. Oh crap. This guy is unbox all animals, please. Don't know why they're randomly boxed up, but I think this area turned out really nice. We finished up like this little corner here, which I think is cool. We have, I like to do these little signs that say like, it says what the animal is, especially when we have these habitats that are off the beaten path, off the main path, which I like to do quite a bit. Obviously, I did it with the Arctic wolves here, so you have this little kind of turnaround area, and then same with the reindeer. It kind of wraps around, goes out over here. I did the same thing here too, so we have the same signage here. So it lets our guests know what animal they can see from inside that spot. Our doll sheep are doing well. We actually hired another keeper because it seemed like they were having trouble. I don't know what it is with the doll sheep, but they they poo a lot, and it was causing the habitat to be at risk for disease because our keepers couldn't keep up. So we hired 3. So we actually have 3 keepers for the entire Arctic area, which seemed to help because we haven't had any notifications about that. And again, I don't recall if we went through this in the last video, but we have our polar bear habitat viewing area. So it's a completely indoor area. You walk in and you can either go to the underwater viewing area, which we themed as sort of like an ice cave, so when the polar bears are swimming. And then as well as you can walk up here if you want, and you can look out over the habitat, which I think is really, really cool. We've got a couple like little, these are actually lights. They kind of glow, which they're really, really fun and nice to look at. The other thing we did during the most recent live stream is we worked on the backstage area. So we have our nice little staff area, which I cleaned up quite a bit because the buildings were a little further out, and I kind of had like a little spaghetti thing going on with the pathing. I think is because I placed it originally before we really had the layout of the Arctic area, kind of defined. And it just looked a bit ridiculous. So I moved the buildings closer, so this way the staff have less distance to travel. And then, obviously we're keeping with the sort of industrial generic theming with our staff buildings, but added lots of like little nice scenery things back here. I also, if you recall, we had this path came up here and came all the way over here and connected. And I realized because we're using work zones and each work zone has its own set of staff members, like we don't need to have all of the areas connected to each other. So I disconnected it so the staff in the Arctic area, they're never gonna have to leave this section. So there was no reason for all that to be connected. So we disconnected that. We finally finished off this corner, which you may recall was just blank for the longest time. And I wasn't really sure what to do here, so we just made it, more scenic and filled it up with trees and rocks and bushes and things. We also themed out this little bridge, which we took the idea from this bridge here, kind of made it look like a little rope bridge, little log bridge, or whatever you want to call it. Added some theming around our facilities, our power and water filter there, just to make it all look a little bit nicer. And even though the guests can't really see when they're standing here because the railing is taller than the guests are, it still looks nice if you're like over here. I think that's just like a really nice little view if you ask me. Maybe if you're a guest, you're down here, you might be able to see. Actually, you can't because I covered it up with some rocks and bushes right there. But that's all part of, trying to do a realistic zoo, is thinking about the sight lines and making sure the guests can only see really what you want them to see. And that's part of that whole thing, like if you're standing here as a guest, you can't really see out this way. Obviously to the left is not finished yet, which is going to be the African area of our zoo, which we'll be starting on next, I think. Now that we have completed the Arctic and Heart of Asia sections of our zoo, I think Africa is the next thing we'll be working on. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this part here as we take a look at our panda who's just hanging out and relaxing, enjoying some alone time. Oh, look at the pads of his feet. His friend over there is sleeping. Actually, this is the female, but and she's licking her belly. But yeah, like I said, so we're gonna leave this episode here. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. Make sure you leave your comments down below if you are. If there's something you would like to see, either like as far as like building goes or animals. Like I said, we're going to be moving on to the African area of our zoo, which is going to be a huge area. It's basically going to be as big as our entire zoo is now, is going to be the African areas. It's going to be big, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We're going to start introducing rides to the zoo, because there are some transport rides that we can use. And I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I haven't said it in a while, but in case you don't know, I do stream on my Twitch channel, which the link is always down below in the description. I also have a Discord if you guys are interested in joining. That is also in the description down below. But yeah, so I'm going to leave this here. Be sure to leave your comments, suggestions, and feedback down below. I am 8-Bit Josh, and thanks for watching. See ya.